Um, what you guys are seeing right now is this blonde girl. I want you guys to take a good look at this lady. Now, I think she's 20 years old now, but I'm pretty shocked at our justice system. I don't know. I mean, I see her eyes tearing up and watery, but I'm not sure if looks like she's gonna say something. But let me just fill you in. So, a judge locks up an Ohio woman who stabbed a teen girl to death. I will be living with this guilt. So it says here, an Ohio judge sentenced a 20-year-old Brianna Brazzoni to 3 years in prison. With the possibility of early release in the fatal stabbing of 17-year-old Helia Cobbleston. Oh gosh, I hope I said that right. Family and friends Cobbleston's family emotionally spoke about the teen during Thursday's sentencing. Before she was sentenced. So on March 26th of 2023, I remember this was starting to come back to me. Admitted to swinging a knife at Helia Cobbleston during an argument outside a smoke shop in Columbus, Ohio. Wow. Cobbleston was taken to a local hospital but later died. Brazzoli pled guilty to involuntary manslaughter. She was originally charged with murder, so she took a plea deal. I want you guys to listen to these grandmother's words, okay? This is so sad. Y'all know Columbus isn't too far from my area. I do have a friend that lives up that way. I used to have another friend that used to live there. But this story, I know it's 3 months old, but I don't see anybody talking about this shit. Especially my YouTube folks. I haven't seen nobody. If I do post this to Facebook, I don't know if I am or not. We'll see. I don't know how when it comes to videos of how Facebook is. I don't know how, Okay, so I'm going to back it up. Betty over here. This girl did something so evil and is only gonna get 3 years in fucking prison. Anywho, so the grandmother of the lady is speaking, but I gotta back it up a little bit.
But for her, that's a different story. Prosecutor, you told my family you would fight for me. You did not. You had more than enough evidence. You had 2 girls in a fist fight and 1 brought a knife. What you kept conveying to my family was that the jury would not convict at this time. I just can't believe that the public is willing to accept killers receiving 1 to 3 years in prison with the ability to get out after serving as little as 1 year. Is it any wonder that criminals believe that they can get away with murder because they can? Judge, how did you accept this deal as fair? There was a video and a text message, as well as other evidence. When you put on that robe every day, you are supposed to be fair and look out for the victim, not the killer. In my case, you seem to have forgotten that. I was only 17. Was my life worth only 3 years? 1 moment in time took me away from everyone that loved me and everyone that I loved. Please don't forget me and what killer did to me.
That grandmother is right. This should have went to trial.
And what killer did to me?
There should have been no plea deal
Respectfully,
offered to this girl.
Julia Culbertson. There are people that light up the world, and Julia was one of them.
Thank you for your plea.
Let the public of Ohio do that jury. Let the jury come in and take this case. There should have been no plea deal offered to this woman. I don't care how old she is.
Spell your last name and what's your relationship to Aaliyah?
My name's Mackenzie Adrian, Adrean. Aaliyah was like my little sister and my best friend. I've heard this about 1 million times, and Aaliyah was like a little sister I never had. I loved her like she was my bud. She knew how to laugh and make things seem like they weren't as bad as they really were. She was always there if you needed to talk or to cry or even to scream in the car, to literally any song. She was always that person. If she knew that she couldn't defend themselves, if someone couldn't defend themselves, she would stand up and defend themselves for her friends. And she always wanted to be 18 years old. It was like her goal. When I met her, actually, I didn't know her name for a day. Until the next day, she called me, and we just called each other Blue and Zuzu. And this disguise who we used to wear, she used to act like she was not caring, and she would act like nothing ever hurt her. But Aaliyah was that girl who hid behind this mask, and she was sensitive. And her heart was big, and that if someone she loved hurt her feelings, it broke her. She was 17 years old when she lost her life.
And this
She had so many
blonde
things she wanted to
girl
do with her life. And
just sitting there.
when I used to come back over to her family was always there. One of them was always there. We used to just make TikToks with Leah and her little sister, Kaylin. One of my favorite memories of Leah was when we got this cat and we co-parented her.
Co-parent to the
A long
cat.
time to figure out a real
Everybody's
name for
doing
her. And that cat, Leah's little sister, Kaylin, now takes care of ever since Leah has been gone. There's a million things about who Leah was, but in all honesty, if you ever got the chance to meet her, she would have made an impact on anyone's life. She is the reason I wear a nose ring, have a certain tattoos, think about the world differently. She used to always tell me all the time, let me buy your car. I always say no, and now I've never drove that car since she died. She was the most beautiful person I've ever met.
Aww.
Everything about her strengths, her hardships, her sadness, her anger, her soul. She was one of a million. And the reason I wanted to write this, and I wanted to speak, was to tell you who Leah was, and my personal feelings towards this whole thing.
Oh. I'm trying to hold back tears right now because this is... Woo! This is I can't believe if they had a video that they wouldn't be able to convict her. So they
I'd
took
rather
a
be
plea
standing at
deal.
her wedding and giving a speech, or her graduation.
State of Ohio slacking.
I'm here, and I know Leah, and I know her killer. The past 6 years of my life, I've dealt with her killer, her family. Leah's killer and her family I've dealt for 6 years of my life. And when I finally thought I was getting away from these people, and I finally got my family away from these people, Leah's killer did this to the most important person in my life. That night I felt like part of my soul, more like all of it left when Leah left. I relive March 27th of 2023 in my head every day. All I see is Julia in my arms, and I'm screaming on the phone with 911 telling them to hurry. Then I wake up and it's 5:30 a.m. in the morning, and it's the next morning, and it was my dream. Every night since I lost her. Julia never got another birthday, or Christmas, or Thanksgiving. No more holidays.
Aww.
But her killer got to spend every holiday last year since Julia's been killed, freely, and with her
Yeah.
family.
That's
When
horrible.
Julia's family, her whole family, never gets another one. She's forever 17, and that lives in my mind. If anyone ever asked me what kind of people, or how I would describe the Berezzinis, I'd say I can't trust them as far as I can throw them. I wish this wasn't what I was doing, reading a statement. I'd rather be sitting there every day through court and talking on trial a million times and writing and saying my statement to you. I wish I was reading a speech at a wedding, seeing her raise kids, get her nursing degree she always wanted. Or even living and talking to her when we get old in a nursing home.
You hear my dog? Sorry, y'all. He's outside doing
After
a
listening to
fit.
me and hearing my statement, I hope you understand who Leah was. She was an absolutely beautiful, that soul that she had. I always wanted to help. Her heart was so big she could give it to anyone. I miss her every day. She was my alarm in the morning, my personal therapist when I need someone to talk to, and my little sister in my eyes. I could tell you about Leah for hours, but I couldn't make you listen that long. I hope that her killer gets the maximum sentence. I hope you realize or understand someone who Leah really was in this world. A daughter, a sister, a cousin, a friend, a student, a co-worker, a granddaughter, a niece, an aunt. She was someone's child that got taken too soon, and she is now forever 17 years old.
Aww. Is this girl crying? No. Now, there was a video and evidence. A jury should have got to see this.
My name is Kaylin Culbertson, Culbertson. Your Honor, I would like to tell you about my big sister, Halia. My sister, my protector, my best friend. Halia was a strong-willed woman who struggled in life but never gave up. She worked so hard everywhere she could. She made sure I was always taken care of. She worked non-stop. She always loved keeping herself busy and always made sure to give her all everywhere she could. She was always so determined to have a bright future. She was working towards it every day. I would like to take this time to express the pain and suffering due to the brutal murder of my sister, Halia. I can hardly stand the pain at times. The thought of the last night of her life will be with me always. Halia was the closest person I had by my side and in my
These cops are
She
probably
was the
even
kindest, most loving
balling.
sister
Look
I've
at
ever
her.
asked for. Throughout my life, I always looked up to Halia. She has been there to share my joy and laughter as much as she has been there to be my shoulder to cry
How
on
can
and
the
pick me up when I was at my
state
worst.
not prosecute this
Halia
to
had
the
biggest heart,
fullest?
and no matter what was going on with her, Halia always put others first. She was always helping anyone she could.
3 years
She
in
had the strongest
prison
soul,
is
and
because
she always
she's
stood up for everybody,
17.
including me. Wherever and whenever
She's
anyone needed
20
her,
now,
Halia was
y'all.
always one call away. When I would break down anywhere I was, she would always find a way to
But
come
she
get me
has a
and cheer me up
chance
and
to
tell me not
get
to let
out
this world hurt
early.
me. No matter how hard it
could
got,
spend
I knew she
1
would always
year
be
in
right by my
prison
side
and
to
get
bring my
out
smile
early.
back. The very last time I heard my sister's
And
voice
she could kill
was March
somebody
26th at 10:50 p.m. I called her just to see what she was up to,
She's
and as
out
she picks
for
up the
that
phone,
anger
I asked her where
issue.
she is and who she was with. She laughed and told me she
We
was
all
hanging out at her
have
friend's house.
anger in
I asked her no
us.
voice,
It's
right?
just when
She smiled
people
over the phone.
bring it out in
I was
us,
always
we
making
don't
sure she
like
was
it.
okay and having a good
I
night.
don't.
And the last thing I told her was to call me in the morning and stay safe and that I love her so much. She said, "I love you too, sis," and hung up. Little did I know that that would be the very last time I would ever get
Let me back up.
was she would always find a way to come get me and cheer me up and tell me not to let this world hurt me. No matter how hard it got, I knew she would always be right by my side to bring my smile back. The very last time I heard my sister's voice was March 26th at 10:50 p.m. I called her just to see what she was up to, and as she picks up the phone, I asked her where she is and who she was with. She laughed and told me she was hanging out at her friend's house. I asked her no boys, right? She smiled. Little did I know that that would be the very last time I would ever get to hear her voice. A 24-second phone call I never expected to be the last. She said, "I love you too, sis," and hung up.
Okay, there we go. We're back to where we're
Little did I
at.
know that that would be the very last time I would ever get to hear her voice. A 24-second phone call I never expected to be the last. On March 27th at 12:24 in the morning, my beloved sister was gone. This villain took my sister's life that night, but my sister's life was not the only thing it took. It robbed me of my happiness. It stole my smile. It took the best part of me I will never be able to get back. Because of this, my sister is gone forever, and every time I want to talk to Halia, I have to go sit at a graveyard and talk to her headstone. Wishing I could just hear her voice one more time. I wish I could just wake up and run into her room and lay in her bed and hug her and tell her I love her just one more time. This villain ruined every memory Halia never got to make. Because of this, I never got to watch my sister walk across the stage and graduate high school. Because of this, I never got to see my sister go on to college and get a degree. I never get to watch my sister find the right guy and walk down the aisle and say I do. My
Yeah.
sister always wanted children. She always wanted to be a mother. And because of this, she never got to experience any of that. Because of this, I will never get to see my sister Halia smile again. Because of this, I will never get to hear her laugh. I never get my best friend back. And I never get to hear Halia's voice ever again. I miss my sister more than anything. I've lost a lot of people in my life, but nothing has scarred me so badly as losing Halia. I don't have many friends in this world, but when I was with my sister, I didn't need anyone else. Halia and I have always stuck together. She took me with her everywhere she went and made sure I always felt included and never alone.
I'm the only one with bad luck. I'm assigned to desert. Not a blade of grass grows there. Wait a minute.
Included and never alone.
God, I can't believe that.
Now she is gone, and I sit in my room across from hers, wishing to hear her voice telling me to get ready, we're going for a ride. She always took me on all kinds of adventures. The last birthday of mine she got to be here for, she and I spent the whole day together. She took me to one of my favorite restaurants and took me to get a gift, and we went and drove around and listened to our favorite songs. And she dropped me off with my brother while she went and got me a cake and sat in the driveway and decorated it for an hour. When I got back, she surprised me with it with the biggest smile on her face. She was so happy. I was so happy.
Oh.
That was the last time my sister got to wish me a happy birthday. Now it's different. It will never be the same. Getting older than my older sister is one of the worst feelings I have to deal with. She deserves to be here. I am lost without her in this world. This villain murdered my sister, Halia. This villain took everything away from Halia when it decided to take her life. It took away her dreams. It took away her future. From us, the family left behind, it took away a sister from her loving siblings, a daughter from our caring parents, an aunt from her beloved nieces, and a great friend and a wonderful, talented person, and left our family with the worst feeling we could ever have. This justice system does not make sense to me. Please explain how someone can murder a civilian and only serve up a max of 3 years and get released as early as 1 year. I may be young, but one thing I've always been taught is that while we are free to choose our actions, we are not free to choose our consequences. To the ones who believe this villain was just defending herself, please listen. This villain had sent out a text a week before she murdered Halia, saying, and I quote, "I'd sooner slice Halia's throat if she comes near me again, as well as, excuse my language, I will cut that bitch on my whole family." How could someone be so cruel? How could someone be so vicious? This doesn't sound like someone who could feel remorse. This villain took my sister's life. There's good and evil all over this world, and everyone has a choice to choose between.
Karma will bite
That
her.
night, this villain chose to be evil. 1 year, 3 months, and 15 days since this villain murdered my sister. And every day I've gone scared for my life because this villain gets to walk freely. You know how terrifying it is to be scared wherever you go because this villain and his family could be right near me and I do not know. This is terrifying. Not only that, I will never be able to trust anyone again. This villain Halia once called her best friend. Someone who met my whole family and slept in my house. Someone who was supposed to be my sister's best friend stabbed my sister and left her to bleed out. Put it at home and put its clothes in the washer, hid its bloody shoes and the knife she used to kill Halia, and got in the shower. All while my sister was fending for her life in her last moments. This villain left and didn't even call for help after she committed this crime. How can someone be so inhumane to just take somebody's life and leave them to bleed, to go home and wash off her blood? Halia is now 6 feet underground forever. She never gets to come back. Don't do something permanently stupid just because you're temporarily upset. This is the cruel world I have to grow up in. This is the world where I know every day my sister's killer gets to walk free with nothing but a slap on her wrist. I am more than outraged and heartbroken. I will live the rest of my life in this nightmare waiting to wake up and my sister still be here. But all I can do is let you hear my words and be the voice for my sister since this villain took Halia's. Our choices determine our direction in life. But if we do not own this fact, we do not know where we are going.
in Ohio when we need justice.
And we resent where we end up as if it was someone else's fault.
Don't.
Halia deserves justice. We will never get Halia back. This villain should feel disgusted with itself. I truly don't know how someone could do that to Halia or anyone at all in this case and just go on with their life knowing what they have done and still feel no remorse for their actions.
God,
Your Honor,
that's
now
so
over a year later I
horrible.
ask this court to consider a magnitude and impact of this crime against Halia. I would ask Your Honor to consider sentencing Brianna J. Barzoni to the maximum sentence under the law, as any time spent incarcerated is nothing compared to what Halia and our family will experience for a lifetime. Thank you, Your Honor.
Oh, she's beautiful. So they were friends. Her sister just said that girl slept in their house. That was her best friend. But the other girl was her best friend. Maybe she had 2 best friends. Back then, you could have lots of best friends. When you're in school, when you get older, you can only have 2 best friends. Maybe 3.
Come on here.
My best friends used to be my...
Good morning, Your Honor. Thank you. 1 year, 3 months, 15 days. 15 months, 15 days. 67.4 weeks. 472 days. 11,328 hours.
Wow.
That's how long Halia's been gone. But who's counting? Today is the day. Today is the day. Thank you, Your Honor. I must first express my personal discomfort and distress over the decision to live stream the court proceedings.
It's not being live streamed right now.
Previously,
It was previously.
this decision placed us in a position where we must endure the public display of our private grief and the details of our tragedy broadcasted for anyone to view. A harsh reminder of how grief feels exploited for headlines. Be that as it may, I understand the importance and the necessity of transparency in the judicial process in order to uphold the integrity of the legal system. I ask that you just use discretion for my family for the things that I've been surprised with today, that will be shown. I stand before you to convey the profound
So
and
I
devastating
didn't know.
impact with a head.
Okay, that must be the mom. So the mom didn't want none of this, but she didn't want herself exploited, and I'm so glad that no YouTubers were able to do that. So I understand where the victims are coming from. They don't want their, tragedy for people to make money off of or exploit. The only reason why I'm sharing this is to get the word out about how Ohio justice system has failed this family. 3 years. Possible release? No. So that's why I'm showing this. My heart breaks for this family, and I'm not happy with the 3-year sentence. It's pretty bad. Okay, let's continue. I know she's mad, and I'm so glad that I haven't seen no headlines. I haven't seen nothing about this case. Nothing. I've never heard of this. I might have heard about this back in the day. Maybe last year. Maybe if I Google, I could probably find it. But I have never heard media really talk about this. So, live stream from the courtroom, so if this would have went to a jury trial, I don't understand. Okay, let me go. Let me continue.
Heart with grief and a soul burdened by an imaginable loss of my beloved firstborn daughter, who was taken from us in an intended act of violence. The pain of losing a child is indescribable. It's a constant ache in my heart, a knot in my stomach that never loosens. But despite my overwhelming grief, my role as a wife and a mother demanded that I become a rock for my family. From the moment that we received the devastating news, I found myself thrust into a whirlwind of emotions, shock, and so many new unknown responsibilities. Because in the wake of tragedy, a mother must summon the courage to face practical challenges that no parent should have to confront. Identifying and preparing a child's lifeless body, planning a
God,
funeral.
that's horrible.
Planning a funeral for our daughter felt so surreal. What will she wear? What casket? Flowers, music, where, headstone, obituary, transportations, accommodations. I'm sure I left a million things out. Trapped in a nightmare. I couldn't wake up. I can't wake up. No way to escape. Yet I had to stay strong. Strong for my husband, crumbling under the weight of the grief, and strong for our children who were trying to understand, trying to make sense of losing their sister. Supporting my family through their grief became my sole purpose. I listened to their cries. I held them close as they cried and screamed, and tried to answer the unanswerable questions about why this happened. Every day a struggle to keep going, to find some sense of normalcy amidst the chaos of loss and mourning. My daughter was not just a child lost. She was light and love that brightened the lives of everyone around her. Her laughter, her dreams, her imaginations, the stories she could tell, and her boundless kindness were all taken from us in a moment of violence. Our hearts ache with an emptiness that no words can truly express, knowing that she will never get to experience the future she fully deserves. Our family's been robbed of the joy of watching our child grow, learn, thrive, achieve milestones, and embark on her journey into adulthood. Brothers and sisters, cousins and nieces, friends, loved ones, lose not only a best friend, but a lifelong bond and future shared memories they can no longer fulfill together. The pain of losing a child reverberates through like a systemic wave of sorrow and constant disbelief. There's a silence. It echoes now. In our home, in our hearts, infiltrating every aspect of our daily lives. Sleepless nights, haunted by dreams, unanswered questions. Dreams unfulfilled become the new norm. Trust and safety and security is shattered, replaced by fear and vulnerability. It is a pain that permeates every aspect of our existence, a constant reminder of what we have lost and what could have been. What have you done in the last 472 days? Have any of you counted them? Have you lost track of them? Have you celebrated them with people you love? Have you sat quietly by a stone while hoping your angels were watching from up above? Have you made any change in your life to be better than at least the day before? Or have you given up, checked out, no point in playing life anymore? 472 days ago, time marked. Before this, after this. New words given to the grieving. Moving forward. The day you realize moving forward is forever different. Each day now becomes a blessing and a curse. Blessed to see the last 472 days. Breathe the air, to go on living. Cursed to go on with the most important family member missing, Halia, my firstborn. I taught my family love, because that's what was taught to me. We teach and love our family unconditionally.
Yep.
Halia took that love to share with the world. Life was her adventure every day. Every day, something new, something amazing. She wanted to go everywhere, do everything. She just couldn't wait. In the midst of our grief, we were forced to face a justice system that seemed to overlook the true gravity of the tragedy.
I know a couple kids that are
Or
like
attempt to even
that.
fight for it.
Love
Every
to
attempt to
go
convey our
everywhere.
feelings. Maybe they heard it. However, ignored it. No plea, no deal, not fair. Go to trial, bring light. I want the facts even when they suck. Thoughts become your words, become your actions. We've gone over this. A plea deal to the person that took her life, someone who had already expressed their intent. It feels like a betrayal of my daughter's memory and the justice that she was promised. How can a plea deal for involuntary manslaughter be enough for someone who sends out threats and acted with deliberate intent?
Yeah.
Intention seems to be the key. If you saw the text
There's
messages,
text messages. Okay, there's text messages. There's a video footage of them fighting. The state could have brought that, and that would have been. I just don't understand the state agreed to this plea. State of Ohio, why aren't you working your asses off?
which I'll read in its entirety. Like, please, both those bitches can go to hell. Aaliyah got my niece taken from me. The audacity of either of them to say they miss me. I'd sooner slice Aaliyah's throat if she comes near me again. Because I know she called me off no-caller ID. One of her buddies told me who was there. And she went past my house in a Mustang. My brother woke me up and told me. And I got in a car chasing after them. But they dipped. My nephew was there. I was pissed. I will cut that bitch on my whole family if she tries showing up to my family's home again. Aaliyah hangs out with my brother's baby's mom. That's a pathetic little bitch. That's why she misses me. Intention seems to be the key. Intention that I see real clear. She wished my daughter to hell. She was clearly mad. She blames Aaliyah for her niece being taken away. She swore on her whole family her intent. So how did she end up at the same place and the same time as the daughter of mine? Because she kept going. An empty parking lot at 11:30 on a Sunday night. How many other cars were there besides hers? Maybe 2? You knew she was in there before you even entered the store, but you kept going. Why were you there? You passed 2 gas stations. Why this store? The drinks you bought. You bought alcohol you're not even old enough for. So Aaliyah starts yelling at you once you came in, but you kept going. She went outside because you both agreed to meet there. So you had a moment to take a pause, to call for help, but you kept going. You can see through that door. It's glass. You can see she's still there, but you kept going. Then a scuffle started. You can't take anymore. What were you doing, fighting with a child for? Because you kept going. Then you got mad because she got a few hits in. So you decide it's your choice, her life you should end, because you kept going. Then you pulled a knife because you probably unintentionally brought that with you too. And you kept going. You slashed her, you stabbed her. You know she's never harmed. She was fighting by her childish playground ways. A fight's a fight. Fight it out. You get to walk away. But you brought a knife to a kid fight, and you kept going. EAD drove you there and drove you away. You called no one to tell them that someone needs help. Nah, give her time to bleed out, because you kept going. You kept going all the way home to quickly get out of those bloodstained clothes. Why?
Please enjoy the first 3 minutes of my new movie, Am I Racist? The #1 documentary of the decade. Take a look.
Watch them. With what intention? You kept going. The shoes, what did you do? You hid them. With what intention? You kept going. The knife, you brought that back too. You hid it. With what intention? You kept going. While Aaliyah was gasping for her last breaths, you left her to die so you could intentionally hide. Mugshots posted, no marks, no black eyes, not even a bruise. But you have now done what you intended to do. And while you're on your overnight, you tell them you would do it again. Your thoughts become your words become your actions. I've read every comment they tell you not to. I've talked to the whole world about what to do. I've watched the videos, I've read every text. I listened to the 911 call and heard my Aaliyah gasping for her last breaths. Hum when it hurts, and you'll get through the pain. When they were hurting as a mama, that's what I would explain. My baby was humming. Kenzie called out to 911 for help. Stabbed just above the heart, not in the neck. Bleeding internally. That's how my baby went to heaven, you see. They came and they drove her to Riverside, but wait, why? St. Anne's is so much closer. None of it makes sense to me. They took her away before I could see her. None of that makes sense to me. They autopsied when I said no. No one is listening to me. Today is the day you hear me speak. Your Honor, as we gather here today to seek justice for our daughter, I need to remind everyone that this was not just the tragic death of a child. It was a heartbreaking betrayal of a young life taken by someone who was once a best friend. My daughter was not killed by a faceless stranger, but by a person who was once trusted and loved, a friend who knew her, understood her, shared countless moments of her life. This betrayal makes the loss even more profound, as it was not an random act of violence, but a calculated decision made by someone who is supposed to protect and cherish her. This is not just a matter of justice for a victim. It's about recognizing the deep personal breach of trust and devastating impact that such a loss has on a family. My daughter's death is a stark reminder of how trust can be shattered in the most unexpected ways, and it's vital for the court to consider this profound betrayal as part of the pursuit of justice for her. To justify the taking of my daughter's life as an act of self-preservation is to diminish the essence of who she was. And the defendant's plea for involuntary manslaughter offered by the defense does not adequately address the severity of the crime, nor provide the justice that my daughter deserves. A well-crafted argument for a plea deal involves not only presenting the facts of the case, but also addressing the legal, emotional, and practical aspects of the plea agreement. By emphasizing the benefits of the deal for both the defendant and the prosecution, the attorneys then demonstrate that the plea is a fair and just resolution to the case.
No way.
Plea deals are standard in the legal system and promote judicial efficiency by resolving cases in a manner that is fair and expedient. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask you to consider this. If given a choice, would we not all prefer to endure the hardships of a prison sentence over the finality of death? Years in prison is a period of suffering and regret, but it's also a chance, an opportunity for personal growth, for making amends, and for finding a path forward. Death, on the other hand, is an absolute and a final. It offers no chance for change, redemption, or future possibilities. I ask Your Honor to consider the true nature of this crime and the impact it has had on our lives. I urge you to recognize the enormity of our loss. Justice must prevail for my daughter, our daughter, who deserves to be remembered not as a statistic in a courtroom, but as a cherished daughter, sister, granddaughter, niece, cousin, aunt, friend, whose life was unfairly taken from us. We navigate this painful journey of grief and healing. I implore you to render a decision that honors the true facts of this case that you have seen. Our daughter's life mattered. Her memory deserves justice, honor, our daughter's memory to ensure her death is not in vain. In most scenarios, bringing a knife to a fistfight is considered unethical, illegal, dangerous. It's crucial to approach conflicts with a mindset of de-escalation and consider the potential consequences of introducing a weapon into a physical altercation. The right course of action usually involves seeking a nonviolent resolution to ensure your safety through legal and ethical means. Here we have a smart, college-educated 4.0 student with so many recommendations from friends and family for the pre-sentencing investigation. That sounds like someone that should know the difference between right and wrong. Maybe she's just smart enough to play us all. She knows child from adult. She's a woman. She's grown. We're not in juvenile court. We're not here to talk to her like she's a child, to get her hopes up on early release. The defendant's thoughts became her words became her actions now her destiny. She has inflicted irreparable harm. She has shattered and devastated families and lives. Her disregard for the law and basic human decency demands the fullest extent of justice under the law. I implore Your Honor to impose the maximum sentence allowable, so those that affected may be able to feel some kind of safety walking around, especially my youngest daughter. In the end, Brianna, you and God know the truth. I hope you can make peace there. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you for your statement.
Your Honor, there's some additional arguments the state would like to offer for today.
So that's all that's going to speak, is that correct?
That's my understanding, Your Honor.
All right. So we need to have a short discussion on the back about the playing of the video. So it's my understanding the prosecution desires to play the video. The defense has a video they want to play also. So I'm going to allow that, but family members, I think you've seen it, but I know it's disturbing. I watched it, it's disturbing to me. So anybody that doesn't want to be in the courtroom while the video is played, they can exit the courtroom and come back. It's up to the family and this family also. So is this what computer are we on right now?
Mr. Creighton's computer has all these things. Judge, I was playing from here. We agreed. All the videos are on one flash drive, so if you keep it here, I'll go ahead and play over the stage right here. Sorry, thank you.
All right. It's your desire to play the video, correct?
It is, Your Honor. Not quite at this point in time, but it is my desire.
All right, go ahead.
Thank you, Judge. Your Honor, this is a case of tragedy. Tragedy that resulted in the killing of a young woman named Halia Culbertson. Halia was 17 years old at the time of her death.
Your Honor, this tragic killing is a direct result of rage. To put it plainly, Brianna Berrezzini stabbed Aaliyah Culbertson because she was angry. There's no doubt
Sorry,
that
but
Brianna
I
Berrezzini's
can't
actions
take
on
you
March
off
26,
for a while.
2023
My
were
hands are
provoked
swollen,
by Aaliyah
guys,
Culbertson.
and that ring did not want to come off, and it was. I'm gonna have to wait a while to wear it. Oh my god. I don't know what happened, if my hands got fat, or if I just slept wrong, or because I'm only a 7.5, and this thing is super tight, and I just almost went into a fucking panic attack. That scared me just now. Sorry, y'all. I was sitting here thinking, oh my god, I would have to go to the hospital and get it cut off. Oh my god, how are they going to cut it off? Do they even do that? Can they even do that? That was going through my head just now. They're going to have to cut my finger off. Okay. Looks like the state is talking. Let's hurry up and get this done. Okay.
Aaliyah wanted to engage in a fistfight with Brianna. Aaliyah began arguing with Brianna inside of the 161 smoke shop when the two ran into each other by mere coincidence. Aaliyah challenged Brianna to a fight. When asked to leave the 161 smoke shop, Aaliyah proceeded to wait for Brianna outside. Once Brianna came outside, Aaliyah still pushed for the two to have a fistfight. And that's exactly what Aaliyah did, Your Honor. She engaged. She slapped Brianna Berrezzini in the face. Your Honor, all of that is fact. It is reasonable that those actions would anger Brianna Berrezzini. However, none of those actions justify Brianna Berrezzini taking a knife and plunging it into Aaliyah's clavicle. Rather, that is an act of unjustifiable rage. A stabbing is a disproportionate response to a slap. Your Honor, today this court has the responsibility of deciding the appropriate sentence for Ms. Berrezzini. I anticipate that the defense will ask the court to determine that Aaliyah's actions are mitigating facts that warrant Ms. Berrezzini being sentenced to a term of probation.
That's
Your Honor, the state
crazy.
submits to the court that the plea resolution in this case already factored in the mitigating circumstances surrounding this case. The unjustified killing of Aaliyah Culbertson warrants the maximum prison sentence allowed by law. Your Honor, you've already heard from the family of the victim. Their grief, their thoughts, their loss, all of this gives this court justification to sentence Ms. Berrezzini to prison. However, there are a few substantive points that I would like to draw to the court's attention. One of the biggest questions before this court comes down to Revised Code Section 2929.12c, where this court must weigh whether there are substantial grounds that exist to mitigate the offender's conduct. This entire case at trial would have hinged on this question, Judge. Was this a case of self-defense, or was this a case of enraged killing? Your Honor, the state would like to turn to State's Exhibit A, the video that Your Honor has already discussed. Good, I'll take it.
Hey, get off my sister, bro. Get off my sister. Hey, if you touch my sister, I'm gonna have to put my phone down, bro. Aaliyah, cut your ass and get it out of the way, bro. Cut your ass and get it out of the way, Aaliyah. Yeah, cut your ass, Aaliyah. Cut your ass, Aaliyah. Cut your ass, Aaliyah. Cut your ass,
Ooh,
Aaliyah.
Aaliyah getting it.
You better get your girl before she get fucked up even more. We can just beat her ass.
Ooh.
Your Honor, there are a few points that I would like to make after watching State's Exhibit A, and a few comments in the pre-sentence investigation I think demonstrates why this is an appropriate prison case. Your Honor, throughout this case there was a pre-sentence investigation done where there's some comments about the offender's version of the events. And I think State's Exhibit A shed some light into the version of the event.
Sorry, y'all.
Comments about the offender's version of the events. And I think State's Exhibit A shed some light into the version of the events that Ms. Berrezzini has offered forth to this court.
It occurs to me from watching the video that it was a fist fight. She took the knife out of her pocket somewhat surreptitiously. She was backing away from her, but she got slapped. And And then she moved away from her and she came forward with a knife. It's very clear from the video. She could have taken a slap. That might have been the end of it. People shouldn't bring weapons to a fist fight.
Your Honor, that's exactly the state's point that it wishes to make, that this is not a case where a knife was brandished to avoid a conflict. This is a case where a knife was put down on the side, and then once Aaliyah Culbertson engaged, she was eventually stabbed by Ms. Berrezzini. Your Honor, that type of conduct is not conduct indicative of self-defense. That's conduct that's indicative of rage. Your Honor, there's been some comments about text messages that were sent in this case, and I think that it's important to know what the state thinks that the text messages demonstrate throughout this case. The text messages demonstrate that there was an ongoing feud already between the defendant and the victim in this case. Judge, there's no way to mince words here. There was bad blood between the two. The text messages demonstrate that Ms. Berrezzini was mad at her. She was mad at Aaliyah. It demonstrates that the fuse, to get angry between the victim and the defendant was short. It demonstrates that when Aaliyah and Breonna began to argue and fight, that fuse to become enraged was very short. And the state submits to you that Ms. Berrezzini, when she became enraged, did exactly what she had thought about in the past. She stabbed Aaliyah Culbertson. Your Honor, in my closing remarks, I just would like to note this from the pre-sentence investigation, because I agree with the PSI writer. The PSI writer writes that there was an accountable attitude towards the incident offense expressed by the offender. Unfortunately, she has a tendency to assume victim stance by focusing on the alleged actions of the victim rather than her own. Your Honor, I think that that's an articulate summation of what happened in this case. Your Honor, the purposes of felony sentencing, as you know, are to protect the public from future crime by the offender, to punish the offender, and to promote effective rehabilitation of the offender. Those overriding principles in this case demand prison. Your Honor, the state asks this court to give Ms. Berrezzini the maximum potential prison sentence allowed by law. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll hear from the defense in litigation.
Your Honor, thank you. I have submitted a sentencing memorandum wherein I address all of the factors I believe the court must consider in deciding whether this case is one that is more serious or less serious, whether recidivism is more likely or less likely. And in my memorandum, I've encouraged the court to come to the conclusion that although this is a serious offense, that this particular form of the offense is less serious compared to other forms of the same offense. I don't by any means want to minimize the effect that this has had on Ms. Culbertson, her family and friends. I appreciate their being here today and the opportunity.
Blah, blah, blah.
I will not repeat or review those factors. I think the memorandum is sufficient. Additionally, I did attach letters of support from family and friends of Breonna, and again, I won't present that for a second time here in the courtroom. I do think the record should reflect we have read the pre-sentence investigation. We find it generally to be accurate. We do have some dispute, however, with the section entitled The Details of the Incident Offense, recognizing that the PSI writer merely took the summary from the Columbus Police Department's investigative summary and basically repeated it here, but there are some factors I think that we would like to highlight. This summary, and I think that some people have inferred, implied, or maybe out said, that there was a challenge to fight that was from Aaliyah to Breonna, and that challenge was accepted, and that this was somehow mutual combat. But Your Honor, I would suggest that is not so. But I'd like to just present, if I may, some security video that shows from the store kind of what happened right outside the store. And for the record, if it's all right, I'm going to fast forward this to, well, I guess we're pretty close to there. I apologize. 24:45 as the timer's on the upper right-hand side. Back up just a second. I apologize. What we see here, I apologize, in the upper right-hand corner is 22:45:51, and that's Ms. Culbertson leaving with the friends that she was with after being told to leave the store. Now, I'm going to fast forward this, as there's a period of time, to 2:48, 47, 25, right there. And there you can see Ms. Culbertson pacing back and forth in front of the store. And there at 22:48 and 24 seconds is when Breonna and her friend exit the store. Now, it has been certainly implied that she came out to accept the challenge to fight Ms. Culbertson. But I believe that the evidence is anything but that. She comes out with drinks in her hand, not alcoholic drinks, no weapon in her hand, clearly not coming out in order to engage into a fight. Further, as I play this video a little further, we see that she and her boyfriend take a direct path to the car in which they had come. They didn't go looking for Miss Culberson's friends. They were minding their business, thinking it had been somehow resolved or over, and they were heading just to peacefully go home. Again, no weapon, drinks in her hand, which makes it difficult to fight somebody with drinks in your hand, but it's clearly that she wasn't coming out expecting to be involved in a fist fight, the mutual combat which has been implied. And then you can see that Miss Culberson approaches from what on this video is from the left. That's, unfortunately, we have no volume. However, Mr. Barrage, who was a friend of Miss Culberson's, had the opportunity and took that opportunity to video Miss Culberson as Miss Culberson was waiting for Brianna to come out of the store. Aaliyah, what you about to do, bro? Where's she at, bro? She's scared, bro. She's scared. Aaliyah should drag her out the store.
Okay, see, now they should have let the jury. This could have been presented, and then the jury could see both sides of this. Guilty, not guilty. I mean, you see Aaliyah egging things on here. It doesn't mean that she should have lost her life, though. You don't bring a fist fight. This is what's happening. People are, self-defense is what they were trying to say. Self-defense. But you don't bring you don't. It's crazy. You don't bring a gun or a knife to a fight. If you can't fight like how they fight on the streets, then you don't need to be fighting. Stay home.
No, we waited right here until you get your warrants. I've been waiting to see her ass get beat for a minute, bro. You know what that clearly shows is there's a significant period of time when Miss Culberson is waiting. Miss Brianna comes out with drinks in her hand. There is a glass door, but there's posters or pictures or whatever covering that. I think it aptly disputes the fact that this was a mutual combat. Let's get into a fist fight, and then fist fight got out of hand. And at that time, Brianna had pulled a knife. In watching and reviewing the video that was played about the actual events a little while ago, and I mentioned in the sentencing memorandum, I counted no less than 30 steps that my client took backwards. She pulled a knife from her pocket and took 15 more steps backwards away from Miss Culberson. She didn't want to engage at all. This was more an assault on behalf of Miss Culberson than a mutual fist fight. And at the time, as Mr. Barrett said, she's afraid. She was in fear, and she was absolutely afraid. When her friend tried to jump in and help, Mr. Barrett threatened him.
Where's Mr. Barrett? He should have been charged. He encouraged all of it, Sit down.
Nobody stopped it. And there were people there that could have said, hey, you are my best friend. You don't need to do this. Listen, stop it. They could have stopped it at any time. And nobody did. Instead, they videoed it for content to post later and be funny or famous. And they did so knowing that an assault was going to take place. And that probably should anger us more than almost anything else. But that said, as I've mentioned, she was in fear. She was backing up. The evidence is clear that at the time after she was slapped, don't forget that she had been pushed first and threatened and slapped. And then she went forward and lunged at Miss Culberson. And for that,
this is the reason we have the bargain because of all this. But your client, no doubt, approached her with a knife after being slapped.
But
Aaliyah was moving away from her. And that's why we have this plea bargain, and that's why it was fled the way that it was fled. Your client, I agree, investigated, but once it started, it was a fist fight.
I think the jury should have had this. I think the jury should have had this.
She was approaching Miss Culberson, who was backing up at that moment. The fight, however, or the struggle, whatever, how you might call it, continued after that.
The plea deal should not have been involved.
But all that said, yes, I 100% agree that is why this was played the way it was. There was certainly sufficient indicia of self-defense where a jury may well have found that she was not at fault in the situation, did not use unreasonable force, was in reasonable and honest fear of imminent serious bodily harm or death. And that is why it was played the way it was, because there was certainly an opportunity to present that. But the fact that we did not present that to a jury does not mean that the court should not count that toward the mitigation and the mitigating circumstances in this case. So appreciate that, Your Honor. Everything else, Your Honor, I mentioned in the sentencing memorandum, with the exception of one thing I would like to add. From the very first time that I met Brianna and her family, which was early April of 2023, she has expressed remorse and an understanding of the harm that she had caused. It's one of the very first conversations that we all had in my office was the effect that this had on.
Oh boy.
This is what my house looks like. And I haven't cleaned in 3 months. That's because I have someone come and do it for me twice a month through HomeAglow. Let's talk about how much that actually cost me. So using HomeAglow, the first cost was $39. A crazy good deal for 4 hours of cleaning.
Has had on the Culberson family and friends. And I know that there has not been an opportunity for her to send a letter or apologize or try to even explain what happened that night because I made it clear to everybody they should have no contact and didn't want to make things worse. So for that, that was my decision. My client was following my directions. I didn't have to. Your Honor,
got me.
As I suggested in the sense memorandum, we believe that a period of community control would be appropriate based on the specific factors and circumstances of this case.
It's not fitting my other ring
You don't have to make a
finger.
statement, it's up to you. You don't have to, it's up to you.
I never once thought I would be here today with these charges. I also have never been one to start a fight. I'm always the person to back away from confrontation. Not a day goes by that this incident hasn't been on my mind. I understand and feel for the victim's family as I know the harm I have caused them is indescribable. I also feel for my own family as the situation has caused them a lot of pain. I can understand and appreciate the harm that I have caused now. I will be living with this guilt the rest of my life. I took a life and I understand the victim's family will suffer for the rest of their lives, as will my family for what I've put them through. I pray and will continue to pray for all parties involved.
All right, thank you. It's a tragedy, two young women, both acting somewhat immaturely. In my day, you had a fist fight, you had a fist fight. Either one or you lost. Now everybody wants to bring a weapon. There are mitigating factors here. She is eligible for probation. I'm not going to give her probation, but she's eligible for probation. I do. Your family's going to get to see you, spend time with you, watch you grow up, see your wedding. They'll never get that opportunity. But I do believe that the case was, I don't control plea bargains, but I think it was an appropriate plea bargain. I was fully ready to go to trial. We started the trial. I don't make the decisions about plea bargains, but I think it was an appropriate one having watched and reviewed all this. So the court's considered the factors in sentencing in 29, 11, and 12, and gone through the more serious factors, less serious factors. You have no record whatsoever. You have a lot of people who think a lot of it, and you obviously have a lot of good things in your life to show that she. That's what makes this a tragedy. I'm going to give you a 3-year prison sentence, 3 days jail credit. You are going to have the ability for early release, and I would consider that the appropriate time. They'll have the right to come to court and dispute that. You will go to prison. If you have a bad prison record, you're not getting out early. So you need to avoid conflict in prison and/or any serious rule violations. Once you, if you get out of prison early, you'll be under the court's supervision and probation, my supervision. If you don't get out early, you'll serve your sentence, and when you do get out, you will be supervised for a period of 1 to 3 years. It's called post-release control. Post-release, you're out of prison. Control of prison authorities will assign you a parole officer. And monitor your behavior. If you would violate, you could go back for another 1.5 years. So if everything went wrong for you, you could do 4.5 years. If you do well in prison, take program, you did accept responsibility here. You have a chance to get out early. They're going to take you into custody now. You may have her sign that form, please, prison imposed.
Wow.
God, would you waive the fine and full costs?
Fine and full costs are good.
Thank you.
The weapon will be confiscated and destroyed. I do want to thank everybody. I think everybody obeyed the rules of the court in a tough situation.
Wow, so this was 3 months ago, guys. 3 months ago. And you guys heard it right out of the judge's mouth. 3 years, probation, which will probably be ankle monitor, pissing in it, when she gets out, she better move away and hope to gosh when she's in prison that she does all kinds of classes and can get her life together. I don't know. I think the jury would be mixed feelings because it looks like she didn't want to fight. You see those other people out there filming this and not speaking. They need to be charged as well. Even the brother of Aaliyah, he was out there egging his sister on. When somebody's that heated already, you want to deflect, and you want to not be that aggressive. I don't know, you would try to detain it. You would try to, there's a word I'm looking for and I can't freaking say it. It's at the tip of my tongue. Ugh. I got a big dilemma. My wedding band ring, my engagement ring is getting kind of tight. But my ring that my stepmom got me is fitting perfect on it, but I cannot lose my I could wear both, but no, I don't want to take a chance of ruining the bands. When you have too many rings next to each other, I realized you are damaging your other rings. So maybe it's going to feel really weird not having my rings on. I'm going to wear my engagement ring. I have my stepmother around my neck. I would put my brother-in-law on, but then my chain's so dang heavy, and then I sleep with my loved ones with me. But yeah, so the mom didn't even want an autopsy done. She didn't even want that done. And it's like, ma'am, we gotta make sure, homicide, murder, you want justice for your daughter? We've gotta have a autopsy done. An autopsy is very important to the whole, that does the manner, all the way down to what's in their tummy, So, alright. I will get this posted for you guys. Oh, by the way, I do gotta tell you guys, the case, we got it. Let me go to it really quick since you guys can see my channel here. This is another court case we're going to be covering. Right now they're doing opening statements. I don't really care too much for opening statements.
Didn't you? And there it talks about what if maybe back
in distress.
They were returned at 12:57.
It's for the defense.
Mind you, 12:12 is when she was admitted. You will hear no evidence was preserved.
Name is Whitney Bishop. Bishop is B-I-S-H-O-P.
Okay, thank you, Miss Bishop. Where do you work?
I currently work for HCA in the education department for nursing.
All right. Where did you work in 2019?
At Colleton Medical Center in the emergency department.
Okay. Were you a nurse there?
Yes.
Were you on duty on January 17th of 2019?
I was.
All right. And do you recall treating a patient named Terry Lewis?
I do.
How did she come into the ER?
She came through our front doors as a burn victim.
All right. Do you recall if she was transported by ambulance or private vehicle?
She came by private vehicle.
Do you recall who was with her?
Her husband, Craig Lewis.
All right. And can you describe her condition?
She had multiple stages of burning across her body. Wow. Was very hysterical due to the pain, the suffering of the burns that she had.
Okay.
So we're going to be covering this one.
Do you recall if she was verbal at that time?
The other one, but...
Hear from Dr. Rinker about how Leanne's mom had all of her adult life was a severe bipolar. You will also hear that
I think this is different.
Her burns were not 13th.
Leanne, these were third-degree burns. Third-degree burns all over her body, down to her legs, all over the front of her legs, that left her bedridden for almost 10 months before she finally succumbed to the complications from these burns. She had breathed in fire. Now,
this is the state.
The actions
the other one
before
was
and after this event of her husband of 20 years, Craig Lewis, were not those of a loving and caring husband. They were those of a murderer. Mm-hmm. You're going to hear that rather than call 911, Craig paraded Terry around the house, who was dying from burns, fighting for her life, their bloody footprints all through the house, put clean clothes on her, cleaned himself up before going to the ER. The nurse at the ER cuts the clothes off of Terry because the burns are so bad. Clothes are clean, they're not burned at all. In fact, nobody ever finds burned up clothes. Nobody finds the clothes that Terry was apparently in when she, according to Craig, caught herself on fire.
But why would she throw gasoline on a stove?
You're also going to hear that once the decision was made to airlift Terry to the Augusta Burn Center, due to the extent of her burn injuries, Craig left the ER. He left. And when police made contact with him at 273 Wade Hampton Drive, their shared residence, he was spraying off the carport. He was spraying off what appeared to be fire debris on the carport.
He was getting rid of evidence.
A couch had been removed from the living room. A couch that was later found burned up on the side of the road of Risher Mountain Road. Craig had another residence too. That was located off of Kansas City Road. And what law enforcement found there the next day was a trailer that appeared to have cotton, that appeared to be the same sort of stuffing that came from the couch, and burn pits, smoking burn pits. Now, you're going to hear from a number of witnesses in this case, and the evidence is going to come from the witness stand. What I say and what Ms. Bright Matthews say, it's not evidence. And what you must do is base your decision on what you hear in the courtroom. The evidence that is presented to you through exhibits, testimony, pictures. The state bears the burden of proof in this case, and I must prove to you beyond a reasonable doubt that Mr. Lewis committed these crimes, murder and arson first. I prove that to you through the introduction of evidence. Evidence beyond a reasonable doubt is evidence that leaves you firmly convinced of the defendant's guilt. You must be firmly convinced. Now, your job as jurors is to determine the facts of the case. You get to decide who's credible, what really happened, and then, of course, Judge Dukes is the judge on the law. And at the end of all of the evidence, he's going to instruct you on that law. Now, I do want to point out that this is a circumstantial case.
Okay, now. So we're covering that one, and then we also, before I forget, we'll come back to that eventually. I'll bring you guys updated information. I want to show you guys
we, the jury, as the account of count 5, we find the defendant guilty. We, the jury, as to count 4, find the defendant guilty. We, the jury, as to count 3, we find the defendant guilty. We, the jury, as to count 2, find the defendant guilty. And we, the jury, as to count 1, find the defendant guilty.
All right, we'll hand it back to the bailiff. Madam Bailiff, you just show it to counsel. All right, anything y'all want to take up?
No. Oh, we'd ask you to hold it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen,
we, the jury.
Now that was one of the sons.
We, the jury.
Let's see. Oh, this jury was awesome.
I can't stop buying new shades of this product. Thrive Cosmetics bestseller Brilliant Eye Brighteners come in over 15 shades. Literally.
After more than 13 hours over 4 days, Melody Ferris is found guilty of murdering her husband, Gary, and putting his body on the backyard burn pile.
We, the jury, as the account of count 5, we find the defendant guilty. We, the jury, as to count 4, find the defendant guilty. We, the jury, as to count 3, we find the defendant guilty. We, the jury, as to count 2, find the defendant guilty. And we, the jury, as to count 1, find the defendant guilty.
Both Scott and Chris Ferris broke down as that verdict was read. And Melody Ferris's attorney, as we know, pointed the finger at Scott, claiming that he was the real killer. Melody Ferris is looking at life behind...
The son and one daughter knew their mom did it. The other daughter was with the mom, Amanda.
Bars now, her sentencing set to happen in December, most likely. And this morning, we have a very special guest we're so pleased to welcome here on Opening Statements. One of the jurors who heard the Byrne Powell murder trial, juror Bethany. Bethany, good morning to you. Thank you for coming here today.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start with what influenced you the most hearing this case?
For me personally, it was just the overwhelming, in my opinion, evidence that she was there during the opportune times for the murder and the cleanup, and that even though Scott had presence on the property during, those, like, between 12 and 6 a.m., it didn't seem like there was any kind of an opportunity. It didn't seem like there was any kind of a motive. So just all those things. For me personally, it was just kind of like that logical conclusion of, if nobody else is here to do it, then who did? And then you add in all the other stuff, and that just supported. For me personally, I wasn't quite there until over the weekend. I took over the weekend, and when I came in on Monday, I felt very at peace about what I thought had happened.
Was there ever a moment that you would say was pivotal? Was there ever kind of something with the evidence that made you go, oh wow, this for me might have really tipped the scales of justice?
Yeah, the phone calls, with Rusty. There was a lot of conversation that I felt, there was a lot of opportunity. I felt like she could have denied it. She could have been more clear that it was appalling to her and that she had nothing to do with it. But to me personally, I felt like they just were getting their story straight carefully because they were aware that they were being recorded. So yeah.
Sure. Bethany, being on a jury like this, obviously you're instructed not to look at any social media, watch any media about it, all of that. So perhaps unbeknownst to all of you, maybe you've found out now that the verdict was in. I don't know if you looked at it, but there was a great debate going on for the duration of this trial. Tell me, what do you think? Let's start with, what do you think happened? Because there were debates about who was the perpetrator, debates about how the killing happened. What's your belief when it comes to how Gary Ferris was murdered and how he got on that burn pile?
I think that first of all, I thought that it was odd that she left out the part where at least his phone traveled to a restaurant. So I think at some point while he was gone, the plan was decided to be executed. And then when he gets home, it happens. For me personally, it didn't matter whether or not it happened in the house or it happened in the yard. I didn't really care where it happened. I feel like the house showed evidence that something happened in the house. But I personally think that it's not difficult to imagine that she could have moved the body. When we got out to the site, it felt like it was a bit steeper than it looked in the pictures. I know my own personal strength. I know I'm a bigger lady than she is, but I don't have any mental reservations. If I had to move something with everything available, I would have figured out a way to do it. Like, that was not a stretch for me at all, the movement of the body. And I forgot. That was, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's what I wanted to know. Yeah, did you think that the killing happened in the basement or outside?
I think it was shot in the basement. I think it was shot in the basement. My mental image of it is he made his way outside to some degree, and then he died, and she used equipment, or she just used gravity to get him down into that burn pile.
What about the track? Oh, go ahead.
That was another thing that was a huge problem for me, was the fact that if not her, then somebody else did it. If somebody else did it, how are you unaware? That was a huge thing. Being completely unaware of shots fired, a body that size being moved, a body that size continuing having, I believe the fire had to be tended to. Somebody had to tend to it. And I don't see that happening without her being aware of it.
Sure.
Especially since she's up on the phone till 2 o'clock in the morning.
Right. Bethany, I want to play a clip for you of when you all were deadlocked on Monday, that moment where the judge made that announcement and everybody watching this trial engaging in the great debates online was going, oh my goodness, they're going to go back in. Let's take a look.
We have a note that says they are hung and do not feel like they will be able to come to a unanimous verdict. So my plan is just to bring them in and tell them that they're the best qualified jury that there is to hear this case, and to send them back out and tell them to continue deliberating.
Oh boy, okay, did you expect the judge to tell you to go back in and keep deliberating?
Yes, we did. We knew he was going to tell us to go back in and deliberate. I feel like there was a couple of us, I don't think me so much, but there was a couple of other people that definitely had more reservations and concerns about convicting. And I don't know, I just felt like mentally, emotionally, it was a lot for us. But we went on a lunch break, we took a breather, we came back, and we just got right back into it as if we had in the beginning, and just worked through just a couple more little things that, a couple people had issues with, and then we all felt very solid about our decision.
What were those big issues that led to the deadlock?
Just, I would say the lack of putting the gun in her hand, the lack of, how did she get the body to, the lack of evidence definitely caused doubt, but we overcame that with all the other evidence that was there.
Sure. Bethany, I want to talk to you about Scott Ferris, because we know the defense squarely pointed the finger at him. I mean, literally, the defense attorney you saw pointed the finger at him in the closing argument, was saying that he was the one who killed his dad. Was the jury ever stuck on that idea?
Not for very long. That was one of the first things that we did, was rule out everybody else. We just looked at what they were saying about everybody else, and did we find that there was enough evidence to consider them as a reasonable doubt. And Scott was the last one. He took longer, but in the end, that was another thing, the CPAP machine. We don't think that if he would have been alive, and killed overnight, he probably would have been attached to that CPAP machine. That's why there's just so many things, they're little things, they're not direct things, but logically you put them together and nothing else makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Did you feel that the state of Georgia presented a clear legal theory about how Gary Ferris was killed, where he was killed, how he got onto the burn pile, and who did it? Did you feel like they made everything crystal clear for you as a jury when you went back to that room?
I feel like they made everything as crystal clear as they could. And there were actually big pieces of evidence that we didn't even really look at. We didn't, like the phone call mapping where it had like activity at different times and different, when she'd call phone calls. We didn't really look at that much. I can't remember the other things. There was a couple of other things that we just didn't look at very closely. But I think what they did a very, very good job of is they just kept honing in on that same point. She's the only one there. The motive was helpful, but even the motive was not something that we spent a lot of time trying to decide what is the motive. Mm-hmm. It was the timeline. We started with a timeline, we ruled other people out, and we just tried to see, could we see it any other way? We couldn't see it any other way until she did it.
Sure, and the state doesn't have to prove motive, as you know, it helps. Right. Sure, if it's there. What about the tractor? Did you believe she used that in any way to get Gary's body on the burn pile?
Yeah, some people did. I wouldn't say that she didn't, but I don't think that she would have needed to use the tractor to move the body.
Yeah. Did you find Melody Ferris to be cold when you were watching her?
His ass, you guys.
I guess I didn't really look at her much. My focus was always usually on like the witnesses or the prosecutor or the defense. There were a couple times I looked over at her and I did see her crying. I think I saw a different array of emotions in her, but I definitely put a picture together of who I saw and who I was hearing on those phone calls and seeing on the text messages and stuff like that. So I don't know if I would say that she was cold, but I don't know how to answer that.
Did you find it at all disrespectful that she didn't stand for the jury when you all would enter the courtroom and exit?
Well, and that was another thing. The lawyer had mentioned that, and I didn't even notice that she didn't stand for us. But I did watch stuff when I got home last night, and I did realize that was a big issue for people that she didn't stand. When you walk into that jury box, like me, I'm just focused on what chair am I going to sit in. I sit in that chair, and then I just start paying attention. I tried to not pay attention too much of the gallery and everything.
Sure. What a great juror you were, and your colleagues on the jury were. You all took this case very seriously. You didn't rush a verdict on a Friday for the weekend. You all did a fantastic job, and that's really what anyone can ask for, is just to go through the evidence, take it seriously, uphold your oath. Would you do it again, Bethany?
If I had different circumstances in my life at the moment, I probably would. But I'm going to probably take the rest of the week off to just relax.
Not a girl.
Debrief.
It's mentally grueling. It really is. Mentally and physically, too. Just stay still right.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Bethany, it was wonderful having you on opening statement. Thank you
so much. I've had a fun time this morning. It's been wonderful.
I love it.
America, please. With America's economic bonus.
Guilty. I'm going to post this for you guys. I'll see you all later.